Okay, so last pasuk in the chapter. Not that the chapters are real, but it does feel like a appropriate time to end the year with this. And also, we're not really ending the year because we're continuing. So whatever. It's just nice to get through another chapter. Okay, Mishlei 13:25. Tzadik ochel l'sova nafsho ubeten Resha'im techsar. Pretty easy one to translate.
I could translate.
Yeah.
A tzaddik eats to satisfy his na nefesh.
Okay, to satisfy his nefesh, which we will translate as soul. Obviously, the definition will have to come later. Okay, ubeten
And
Resha'im techsar.
and the stomach of Resha'im, of wicked people,
Yeah.
is not enough. It's lacking, or
Yeah. Okay.
so it's
Good.
lacking.
I'm gonna go ahead and say will lack just because of the future, but yeah, okay, good. Okay, so
Yeah.
that's a translation, very straightforward. Tzadi eats to satisfy his soul, and but the stomach of the Rashaim will lack. Okay, we have no Metzudas Tzion, we have no Sadigon translation. Uh, the only thing that we have a Septuagint. I don't know where they get this from. I don't know if this is reliable. A just man eats and satisfies his soul, but the souls of the ungodly are in want. I'm gonna go ahead and ignore that because I don't even know if that's an accurate translation of the Septuagint. Targum Ksuvim only does one weird thing. Tzadika achal visava'a nafshe. A tzaddik eats and satisfies his soul. Ukresa derashie taxar. And the second half is the same. Okay, so I don't know why it takes out the lamed, the infinitive. It just makes it into like it does this and does that. So take from that what you want. Okay. Our scroll says a righteous person eats to satisfy sorry. A righteous person eats to satisfy his soul, but the stomach of the wicked will, and then they put in the word always lack. Again, I don't know why Art Scroll feels compelled to do that. Plus, it could stand on its own without that. So this is close enough to ours that we will delete this. Rav Hirsch says the righteous eats for the satisfaction of his soul, but the body of the wicked is never satisfied. So that's weird because to me that seems like more of an interpretation than a translation. And in fact, let's just confirm this. Does beten always mean belly? Belly, body, or womb? Yeah, womb, right, right. Oh, okay. Apparently it sometimes means body, as opposed to soul. Tehillim 31:10 says Chanini Hashem kitzarli ashasha v'kaas eni nafshi ubitni. Okay, so they're getting it from the fact that it says my soul and my beten. So if you're saying my soul and my stomach, that's a little weird, but my soul and my body, that makes sense. And then also in Tehillim 44:26, ki shacha le'afar nafshenu davka la'aretz bitnenu. All right, that one's a little bit more subject to interpretation. It says our souls are stooped to the ground, to the dust. Our bodies, our beten clings to the earth. So the dictionary wants to say that that means body, not just belly. Okay, fine. So we'll keep reverses on here. Okay, it's not we now that we've seen that there's precedent for. Alter says the righteous man eats to satiety, but the belly of the wicked will want. And want here means want is like in the archaic sense, means will lack. Okay. I don't really think we need to keep this one. I think it's similar enough to ours. Okay. So really we only have, let's do this. Let's just say the stomach, and we'll just say or body of Rishayim will lack. And then honestly, I don't really think we need to pay that much attention to the Targum. Like, if you really want to, then go for it. But I think we'll just keep it simple for tonight. Okay, so questions should be pretty straightforward. Okay, it's nice after having like a string of like really insanely complicated psukim, but whatever. Yeah, Isaiah.
Yeah, why is pasuk talking about Russia? It just seems like the wrong
Okay, that's the major question. Okay, so the question is, and can you just express why it's weird to talk about Russia here?
I guess to me it's Russia like it's someone who does some sort of evil or harms others, and this is just
Right.
gluttony or
Okay,
something
right,
like.
right. Okay. So the question here is why does this pasuk focus on Sadiq and Russia? Okay. And I realize I agree with you that the question really is much bigger by Russia. But even Sadiq, right? Like we think of Mishleic Tzadikim and Resha'im in terms of how they relate to others. Okay, this is talking about eating, and doesn't involve other people. So you would expect this pasuk to be about a chacham and fool, right? If it was about a chacham and fool, then I wouldn't bat an eye. But tzaddik in Russia, to me, this is the major question on the pasuk. Okay, Michael.
How are beten and nefesh opposites?
Right.
And I guess you'd also have to ask what those mean.
Right. So what? Okay, this is going to be another critical question. What does nefesh mean in this context? Okay, and then what does beten mean in this context? And then either way, how are nefesh and beten opposites, especially if beten means stomach? And I'm just gonna put the transliteration in here, beten. Just 1 second. I also want to copy and paste the pasuk and translation into the chat. Yeah, Benji.
Why isn't it like a opposite? There's no opposite action. They're doing the same thing.
Okay, right. That's a good question also. So what are the two opposite decisions in the pasuk? All right. So it really does say, it identifies what the tzaddik does, but not what the Russia does. Yeah. Okay, and so what exactly is he doing, and how is it opposite? Okay, Noah.
This kind of is related to what you turned that question into, and it might
Yeah.
sound like I'm asking
Sure,
kind of
sure.
a cute way, but
Yeah.
what are we eating?
Okay.
Or what is the tzaddik eating?
Yeah, I'm actually gonna go ahead and in order to make that into another question, like that we would need to address anyway, let's just say like what is the decision making scenario here? Okay, like what's what are we eating? Yeah, right. Okay, good. And some of these questions overlap, but that's yeah, that's good. Okay. Benji, I don't know if your hand is a new or if that's left over from before. Nope. Okay. Okay, what else? Again, not the most complicated question puzzle, but I feel like there are other questions. Yeah, Noah.
I mean, like why this is also, related to what decisions at play. Like what is the mechanism here?
Right.
Why
Yeah.
does whatever he's doing have this
Okay,
effect?
right. Okay, so what is the cause and effect in each half? In fact, I guess really the question is, yeah, it's weird. Yeah, and actually, I'm gonna expand this question a little bit. Hold on. What are the two opposite decisions? Do I want to make this into another pasuk? And I'll sorry, another question. Likewise, what is the result, the beneficial result in the first half? Okay, it identifies what the harmful consequence is to the Russia, but doesn't tell us what the tzaddik gets other than a full nefesh. Okay, and then the question on both of them is what is the cause and effect in each half? How do the actions lead to these results or bring about these results? Yeah, Isaiah.
So is the stomach of the Russia lacking because he isn't eating, or is it some other unspecified?
Oh, right. Okay. So we're gonna also have to ask what in what sense is the beten of the Russia lacking? Is it empty because he's not eating, or eating, enough or in the right way, or is it empty in some other sense due to some other decision on his part? Okay. Yeah, and similarly, I think there's only one more major question which we haven't asked yet. Yeah, Brooke.
Are they like actually physically doing something different, or is it just the way that they interpret something that
Right.
causes the
So
difference?
I think that is what we were asking in this question. No, in the question I put up here, right? Is that are they are they well, I guess it kind of spans several questions, but are they even doing different actions or just relating to them in different ways? Yeah. Yeah, Ariel?
Yeah, I have a couple questions. Like, well, I guess like the first one is like, what's the definition of a tzaddik and a Russia in this
Oh, right.
context?
You did not ask that. Yeah, that's an important thing. Okay, right.
And
So yeah, hold on just a second here. I'm gonna actually make that into the heading for question number 2. No, I'm gonna make that into its own question because it really should be thought about on its own, even without the problem. So, what are the definitions of Sadiq and Russia in this context? And by the way, before you ask your second question, I'll just for methodology purposes remind bring up that Mishlei has two ways of using its terms as terminology. Sometimes it uses it in a jargony way where like in or a technical sense where it means like tzaddik has a specific definition and Russia has a specific definition. Sometimes though tzaddik just means like the good, the one who makes the good Mishleic decision, and Russia means the one who makes the bad Mishleic decision. Here, our question number 3 leads me to believe that this is not just the normal good decision and bad decision, because if it were, use a more normal term like chacham and fool, So I am assuming that there is a technical definition here. Yeah, second question, Nora.
um, yeah, what is the pasuk exactly talking about, or like what's the subject of the pasuk?
Okay, right. So that's a good question as well. What is the subject of the pasuk? Okay, like is it eating, as it would seem, or something else?
Is
Yeah.
that different? Is that different from question 2?
Yeah. Question 2 is what's the decision-making scenario, and question 1 is the subject of the pasuk. And I know I've given this example before, but to me it's the clearest one. That we did this pasuk. Hold on. This is where I first realized the idea, because Rabbi Moskowitz used to always ask the question, "What's the subject of the pasuk?" And it always felt forced to me. Like sometimes it helped, but many times it felt forced. But the example that I saw that really showed me why it's important is Amar. This is in Mishlei 22:13. Amar Atzel Ari Bachutz Besoch Rechovos Eratzeach. The lazy person says, "There's a lion outside. I'll be slaughtered in the streets." Okay, so you would look at this and you would think, oh, this is a pasuk about laziness. Okay, and you could learn it that way. But I remember one time I was learning with Rabbi Moskowitz, and the way he learned it is, no, this is a pasuk about rationalization. Because the idea being that like you're not going to get killed by a lion if you step outside your door, but this person's laziness, his desire, his compulsive need to avoid all immediate pain and conflict, like is causing him to like severely distort reality to the point where he's like fabricating these wild consequences. So really, Rabbi Moskowitz said that this is about rationalization, and the reason why it's important to ask the question is because if you thought this was about laziness, you would only focus on laziness. But if you realize it's about rationalization, this could be about greed or about lust or about all these other sorts of things. So asking what's the subject can give greater clarity. And then the decision-making scenario, that I think you have to ask no matter what, which is what is the, most Mishlei Psukim are a crossroads where you're like, okay, the Tzaddik and the Russia are in the same situation, and this is how the Tzaddik deals with it, this is how the Russia deals with it. And you can answer each of those questions without really addressing the other. Does that answer? Clarify things?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Okay, yeah, Noah.
Okay, so this might be splitting a hair more finely than you'd like to, but I'd like to give it though.
Okay, sure.
This is kind of getting into the question of the decision. To what extent is this a conscientious decision? And how does that get parsed out? Like, is he saying, I am choosing to eat in order to, or it's, he makes a decision and this is the
that's an
result.
important question. Yeah, okay, so I just want to think where I want to put it. Let's go with let's go with hold on, where's the one about the actions? Either way, this is better lacking. What are the two opposite cause and effect? Yeah. Let's put this as a new question. To what oops. To what extent is this a conscientious decision? Like, is are each of these Mishleic actors sitting down and saying sitting down at the table or at the beginning of the week during the meal planning and saying, this is how I will eat, or is this describing like just a natural way that they relate to food based on their Mishleic archetypes, I guess, or somewhere in between. Yeah, does that capture your question?
I actually kind of wanted to press more into like the infinitive. Like, is there an aspect of self-awareness? Like, I am doing this so that, or
okay,
you
right.
know,
Okay, so hold on just a second here. I'm gonna put this here to what extent yeah to are they saying I am going to do this in order to blank, right? Okay, good. And then I guess we'll say if so, what is their conscious motive, especially the Russia, right? Because the Tzaddik's conscious motive will understand from the result, but the Russia clearly thinks he's doing something else, or at least he thinks that it's a beneficial thing, and he's really doing a harmful thing. Okay. Michael.
Sorry. Why in the first half is Ochel in the present, whereas Tachsar is in the future?
Right. Okay, that's a good stylistic question. Why is eat in the present tense in the first half and in the whereas lack is in the future tense in the second half. And I feel obligated to mention this, even though I'm not a grammar person. Whenever I talk about tense, then with Ken, then Ken always reminds me that there's just that there's not really tense in Hebrew. This is what he says, and he knows grammar more than I do. He says there's perfect and imperfect. Perfect means that the action is being described as complete, and imperfect is that it is not complete. And so that could be future tense, but it could also just, there could be other ways that it's ongoing. I don't know enough to apply that here. I just wanted to say that in case someone objects to like present and future. But look, I think in English, and I think in English here, the question makes sense. There's one more point I was going to make. Oh, I'll make it later. Yeah. Ariel.
Yeah, who's the audience?
Okay, yeah, that's a good question also, right? Who is the audience? And what is the practical application for that audience? Presumably it would be for everyone because we all need to eat, but maybe not. Yeah. Okay. I think the only question we're missing is what does Lasova Nafsha mean? We didn't ask that. Where am I gonna put this one? Let's go with it doesn't really matter because we kind of are lost in any sense of order at this point. Okay, fine. So let's go with over here. What does actually let me put this after the Nefesh question. What does Nefesh mean in this context? What does it mean to satisfy his Nefesh? Okay. I hope this doesn't throw anyone off. I just want to go back to last week really quickly because yesterday Joe Grayson told me that there was a point that none of us picked up on in the pasuk last week, and it's a point that Noah is gonna appreciate. Okay, which is chosech shivto sone bno v'ohavo shicharo musar. So one who withholds his rod or his staff hates his son, but one who loves him shicharu musar, which means that he either rebukes him early or he rebukes him often or whatever. So Joe Grayson pointed out to me when he was listening to the recording, he said no one pointed out the fact that there is a linguistic allusion here to choshech, darkness, and shachar, dawn. And I know it's not choshech because it's chosech, but visually that's got to be an intentional thing. So we didn't really take that into account, but I feel like a lot of the ideas we said last week would benefit from that kind of like illusion, like you're keeping your son in the darkness, or like this is going to be the thing that brings the dawn, blah blah blah. So I just want to mention that on the recording because I can't append it to the old recording. Okay, all right. Yeah. Yes, Shlomo does love showing off many layers of his wisdom. And he clearly loved poetry because he wrote Shir Shirim. So he's pretty good at that. And he was raised by David Melech. Okay, so let me copy and paste these into the chat, and then we will have our thinking minute. Let's see if I can get all 7. Yes, got all 7, and then yeah, Benji.
It's related to that. I was
Yeah.
wondering. I know you mentioned that someone's stuck in like rhyme.
Yeah.
Is there like a benefit or something to that besides for the like just memory or cuteness?
It's a good question. Yeah, right. I think those are two things: memory and do you say cuteness?
Yeah.
Yeah, right. I think those are two benefits. I think that memory does. I mean, memory the benefits are obvious, but the cuteness thing, I think it. I mean, I'm sure we've all had experiences with this, but like it's the same thing as when you find a really juicy like quotation, you know, the fact that you get pleasure out of it when you say it or bring it to mind changes the way you relate to the idea. So like sometimes, it could be less, I don't know if it's less threatening. Sometimes it just is easier to like assimilate into a pleasant framework so you don't hear it. Like, for example, like if you say an apple a day keeps the doctor away, as opposed to like come up with some horrific thing that plays on fears of doctors. I'm sure there are other like idiom proverbs in other languages that like make it keep the doctor away and in your grave you'll stay, or I don't know, something like that. Then like it like it awakens like the animal fear, so maybe making the cuteness can endear you to that. Good question. Is there any other purpose other than those things, than the rhyming? There's also the laning, right? That Mishlei does have a ta'amim, and I know rhymes don't like. That was a loud horn outside. Rhymes don't necessarily like translate into the trup, but like for the musicality of it, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Yeah, I have to think about it, see if there's any other benefit. Okay, there's those, and we have 2 more questions.
Because also it's not like every single pasuk, right?
No, in fact, it's a minority of psukim. Like when you see it, you're like, oh, he decided to rhyme. He was in rhyming mood. Yeah. Although I'll tell you though, and Noah's also gonna like this, I think, is I don't know how many of you listened to the morning Mishlei shiur, but Isaac Lichter has been on determined for like the last half of this year. Whenever he can, when we do the translations, he tries to come up with a rhyming translation of the psukim. So for example, let me just give you an example of this. We've been doing chapter 14, so let me just do a random one and see if that hits. Yeah. So and he acknowledges some of them are bad, right? But slowness to anger causes great understanding, but short-temperedness elevates foolishness. And Isaac says, much understanding for one who's slow to get mad, and foolishness is elevated by a short-tempered lad. And so like he tries to do that, and I can say that whatever the benefits are of Shlomo rhyming them, definitely there's a benefit in you trying to rhyme them, to make a rhyming translation. Like it just makes your mind approach it from a different angle. Okay, so let's take our thinking minute. Oh, if anyone wants to stand in for Isaac this time and try to make a rhyming translation, then go ahead. All right, let's take our thinking minute. Okay. Does anyone have anything? And if not, I just want to tell you something that I'm going to do at a certain point in the shiur, and we could do it now or we could do it later, which is that I think it would be beneficial if we did a quick crash course on the uses of the term nefesh. And in fact, you know what? I think I'm actually going to do that now because that might open up directions in people's thinking. So I'm not taking a stance on what nefesh means here, but well, let me ask you. What does nefesh mean? Yeah, Michael.
For my idea, I was thinking desire. Is that fair?
Oh, okay. That's interesting. Yeah, okay, that's actually a possibility. Okay.
Okay.
That's not one of the ones I'm gonna go over, but that is a possibility. I was thinking within nefesh as soul, what do we mean by soul? That's the question I'm asking. David, you answering that question, or you have
Isaiah, and yeah, I would say
okay.
a rational intellect.
Okay. So
David has three possibilities.
okay, yeah, David, what are your three possibilities?
Okay, well, there's a life force.
Okay, with life force,
Okay, what Isaiah was saying,
rational soul.
and not remembering the last one right now.
Okay. Okay, so let me show you the Rabbeinu Yonah. Okay, so there's an idea in the Rishonim. You'll find this in Rabbeinu Yonah on Mishlei 122, on Ibn Ezra in one of his essays in Koheles. I forgot just where it is, and I don't remember the pasuk, so I'm not going to look it up. And then Rabbeinu Bachya ben Asher in the Kata Kemach. Also, I don't remember where it is. I think it's under Ta'anis, but definitely Rabbeinu Yonah here. And so this is a common idea in the meforshim. Okay, it's very short. I'm just going to read this. So he says, "V'davi's bonin, know and understand ki kokos nefesh adam shalosh, that there are three faculties of the human soul." Okay, and by the way, the Rambam in the Shmona Prakim in chapter 1, I think, says that it's a machlokas about whether, let's say with this model, there are three faculties. Does man have one soul and there are three faculties of it, or does man have three souls? For our purposes, it's not going to matter, but just be aware that he's going to speak about it as though it's three souls, but he says three faculties. Okay. Ha'echad. One is the hatzomachas v'hamagadeles. And these are kind of outdated terms. I think I had a good term for this. All right, I'm just going to use a blunt translation. The growth promoting soul. Okay, that's somachas, literally from the word samach, of like plant. What would be good? Is there a good word for plant that's not botanical or arboreal? Like if you had to describe the plant-like soul, is anyone have a good English word for that? Okay, I'll just say the plant-like growth promoting soul. Okay. Vishtatef ba ha'adam im shar balei chayim v'imay lanos, which man has in common with the other animals and plants that grow. Okay. V'kol hazeh yimate yimtza b'kaved, or yimate b'kaved. This faculty can be found in the liver. Okay, we now know that this is not in the liver, but vikari nefesh kamosh kazuv, and it is called nefesh. Kamosh kazuv. Then he brings two psukim to prove this, which is actually, Ariel, we're gonna actually go to that pasuk in the Meiri. Okay, good call. The Meiri on our pasuk just says, look at my commentary there. Okay, fine. So it's called nefesh, and he quotes two psukim, kinavshcha savecha, as will sate your nefesh, and then he quotes our pasuk. Okay, fine. Okay, the second one, hashenis ko hamisave, is the appetitive faculty. Umirus hanefesh hanizkaros b'darchem medamrim aloteva yivaldu min hakoach hazeh. I'm going to just use contemporary terminology here. The psychological dispositions or like traits that are discussed by naturalists arise from this faculty. Vishtatif bo ha'adam im shar balei chayim, and man has this in common with the other animals. Asher yimtza bahem chayfetz lahamti tzarchei hakoach hamagadol, which is the cause of producing the desire to find sorry, sorry, hold on a second, of the desire to find the needs of the growth soul. The gam lahazig, and also to harm and to dominate. Okay, now if that doesn't make any sense to you, actually one more sentence. V'yesh asher yikru lekoch hanefesh bahamis. Some call this the animal soul or animalistic soul. V'koch hazeh yimtza b'lev, and this faculty is found in the heart. V'hahi kari ruach, and it is called ruach. Okay, so the way I like to think of these, and this is not an exact equation here, but if you think, when we speak of like the physiology of the body, that's what he's referring to when he says nefesh, like the part of you that runs the machine that makes it like grow and digest food and breathe and pump blood and all that stuff. Ruach is like what we call the emotions or the psyche. Okay. And like evolutionarily, you have emotions so that you can get your needs. Like, you crave food so you can get the food, or you lust for sex so you could reproduce for the species, or you like have fear so that you could avoid harmful things. So that's like the loose. I'll say like loose modern equivalent is the physiology. Okay, fine. And then the loose modern equivalent of the ruach. Loose modern equivalent of the ruach, is the psyche or the emotions. Okay, again, loose, emphasis on the word loose. And then the third faculty, hashlishis hakol hamaskelis. Third is the rational faculty. V'hu yesod hanefesh, and it is the foundation of the nefesh. Okay, now I don't know what he means by the foundation of the nefesh, because he's using nefesh in the first way. He might mean that like that's the, we human beings have this higher faculty, but it operates on, via a body, like it operates on the basis of that. So I don't know if that's what he means by nefesh. The kare kavod, and it is called glory. Okay, like man's glory. Okay, is this urkavodi? L'mayis mercha kavod v'chein yikare, and it is also called yechida. Okay, yechida, which means like unique soul. Okay, and if any Chabad person tells you that yechida means the chelek elok mimal mamish, like the literal part of God, and they say that that's why we call it the yechida, then just say, well, Rabbeinu Yonah begs to differ. He says it's called yechida, and he doesn't say it's a part of God. Okay, uneshama and neshama. Neshama. Okay, fine. Uba yibadel ha'adam mibalechaim, or yivdel, I don't know, ha'adam mibalechaim. And this is what differentiates man from other living creatures. Okay, so just to summarize here, we got the physiology, the psyche, and the intellect. Okay. Now, before there might be a question. Brooke, you have a question on this?
I mean, I think there are three of us raising our hands. I have more of a comment.
Okay. On this though, or on the pasuk?
On this kind of like this.
Oh, sure, yeah,
both?
sure, yeah. I just don't want to go back to the pasuk quite yet.
Okay, then I'll wait.
Oh, okay. All right. I thought you were saying it's on this. If it's on this, then fine. But
it's both.
okay, fine. So then wait. Okay.
Okay.
Ariel, did you have something on this or on the pasuk?
On the pasuk, I'm just waiting.
Okay, fine. All right. Okay, and then so just one more thing also. So according to Rabbeinu Yonah, nefesh is like the least human part because we have it in common with plants and animals. Okay, but the Rambam, which I'm not going to read this whole thing, the Rambam's very complicated definition of the soul can be found in Yesodei HaTorah, chapter 4, halachos 8 and 9. So, I'll just read it so you can see how complicated it is. The nefesh of all flesh is the form that God gave it. The superior knowledge found in the human nefesh is the form of the man who is perfected in his knowledge. Concerning this form, the Torah said, let us make man in our form, our tselem, like our likeness. This means that a man should have a form that knows and apprehends immaterial concepts such that it comes to resemble them. This pasuk was not said in reference to the visible form of man, namely his mouth, nose, cheeks, and the rest of his anatomy, for this is called toar. Nor was it said in reference to the nefesh found in all living things, whereby they eat, drink, reproduce, feel, and muse. Rather, it is the dea, the knowledge, which is the form of the nefesh, and it is the form of the nefesh which the Torah speaks about. In many cases, this form is called nefesh or ruach. Therefore, you must be careful with this terminology so as to not make a mistake, and each and every instance of the term should be learned from its context. This form of the nefesh of the human being is not made up of the physical elements such that it will decompose into them, nor does it exist by virtue of the neshama, such that it would be dependent upon the neshama as the neshama is dependent on the physical body. Rather, it is from Hashem, from heaven. Therefore, when the body's material, which is composed of physical elements, decomposes, and the neshama ceases to exist, for the neshama only exists within the body and is dependent on the body for all of its activities, this form will not be cut off, since it is not dependent on the neshama for its activities. Rather, it knows and understands the non-physical concepts and knows the creator of everything and lasts forever and ever. This is what Shlomo was referring to when he said, the dust will return to the earth where it was, and the ruach will return to God who granted it. So the reason why I wanted to read this Rambam is to show that he holds the exact opposite of Rabbeinu Yonah, right? Rabbeinu Yonah says, nefesh is the most physical part of you, ruach is the emotions, which are also part of your physical body, and neshama is the intellect. Rambam says that the nefesh is associated with the intellect. There is another nefesh that is sometimes used the way Rabbeinu Yonah uses it. Ruach is referring also to this, and then neshama is referring to the physical part, okay? But the key is what Rabbeinu Yonah is what the Rambam says here, which is you must be careful with terminology so as not to make a mistake, and each and every instance of the term should be learned from its context, okay? So what's the takeaway from all of this? And then we'll go back to the pasuk. The takeaway here is the nefesh can, I'm just going to do a different order here. The nefesh can either mean the physiological part of man, which he shares with the plants and animals, okay, and which causes him to biologically function. Okay, so that's that would be one nefesh, and then the second definition of nefesh is the rational faculty, i.e., intellect, which separates man from animals and is non-physical and everlasting. Okay, so those are the two. Those are the two. And when David said the life force, that would fit under number one in this. Okay, so these are the two definitions of nefesh. I think that like we can select from in our ideas. I'm not closing off to others, but I think we're gonna fall into either a very physical oriented definition of nefesh or a what do you call it, or a very like intellect non-physical one. Okay, Brooke comment and then Michael idea. And then Ariel.
Yeah, so the thing that we were just reading about, like the different forms of satiation, kind of got me thinking about different forms of hunger and satiation.
Okay.
So like, I was as I have my my Mishnah Torah Chavrusa, and the Rambam talks about how like you're supposed to eat to satisfy your soul.
Yeah. Yeah, I think
And
this pasuk.
you're like regardless of whether it's salty or sweet.
Yeah.
And so yeah, so like I thought about how like I think here maybe what it's trying to say is that a tzaddik will eat like specifically food to fulfill a higher purpose of functioning and to allow his body to be healthy so that he can continue thinking and utilizing his mind.
Yeah.
And therefore he's satisfied when he eats because he's fulfilled the purpose, which is allowing his body to continue functioning. And so his hunger kind of bothers him less because he's not as focused on it. Whereas a Russia is like you eat just to satisfy yourself on a physical level. So as soon as you stop eating, you almost immediately get hungry again because you're just hyper focused on your physical needs. So you're never really satisfied.
Okay. All right, that's a good shot. Okay. So first of all, let me just read what you were referring to in the Rambam, because I think the Rambam says it well. Hold on just a second here. Okay, I thought it was in Deos 4. Wait. Oh no, here we go. Yeah, it's here. So he says in Deos chapter 3, halacha. So starting with halacha 2. Sorry, I'm not going to type this out. Person needs to orient all of his actions in order to know God alone. Okay, and to seek knowledge of God. And his sitting and his standing and his speech, everything should be for that purpose. Okay, so then he gives an example about work. Now he's going to go with eating. So too, when you eat and drink and have sex, lo yasim al libo lasos devarim halal k'dei lehanos bivad. You shouldn't have in mind to do these things just for pleasure. To the point where you only eat and drink what is sweet to the palate. Vivol k'dei lehanos. And having intercourse in order to have enjoyment. You should eat and drink in order to make your only to make your body and limbs healthy. Therefore, you shouldn't eat everything that the palate desires, like a dog or a donkey. You should eat things that are beneficial to you. Whether they're bitter or sweet. You shouldn't eat things that are bad for the body, even though they're sweet to the palate. Okay, I think that's all he says. Okay, I thought he quoted our pasuk. Hold on, let me just. I guess he did. No, he didn't. Okay, fine. All right, so this is the first part of Brooks' idea. Okay, which is that the tzaddik eats to now. So hold on just a second. I got lost in your idea about the terminology. So does nefesh? Are you saying nefesh refers to the physiology, and he does that because he has a higher value of the world of his mind, or are you saying that
Feeding his mind.
say nefesh means his mind?
Like yeah, like he's he's feeding his body in order to sustain his mind.
Okay, right. Okay, so the tzaddik eats for the sake of his mind, but a healthy mind needs a healthy body. So the tzaddik eats for health, based on health considerations. Okay. So what's going to happen? And so you're saying that he's going to end up being satisfied in the sense that he's going to get everything his body needs, and he'll be able to like be involved in mind stuff. Is that correct?
Like he's satisfied in terms of he's not really thinking about his body other than as a conduit.
Okay. So he'll be satisfied in the sense of not thinking of his body as an end in and of itself, but as a means to using his mind, and since he's satisfying his mind, he won't experience this like intrinsic lack in his belly. Okay. The Russia, on the other hand, is eating just for pleasure. So so you were saying he's going to always be like, is it a matter of just always chasing more pleasure and then getting into a state where like obviously you can only eat a certain amount and then you can't stuff yourself anymore, but then like you get hungry again or you want the pleasure again and then you just go back and it's just this endless thing?
Yeah, I mean, I also think, let's say you have a tzaddik and a Russia who are like kind of, you have to eat to sustain yourself, but it's, you eat and then you're satisfied for some amount of time and then you get hungry again. And I think for the tzaddik, that would simply be a symbol of, okay, at some point soon I should eat again because my body needs more food, and continuing to think along the terms of his mind, whereas the Russia would constantly, like at the first pang of hunger, be distracted because he's so focused on his bodily needs. So he's almost never satisfied. Okay,
right. I'm adding a point into this. I know you didn't say this, but that since so the tzaddik is just like, I'm gonna use a weird analogy because you use okay, I'll just use this analogy here, right? So if you have a car, you need gas, assuming it's a gas car, right? You need gas. So when you run low on gas, it's not like a tragedy or a harm. That's how cars work. Like you run low on gas and you fill it up. But you're doing this so you could travel with a car, you could drive the car. But let's imagine someone who's just like does not view a full tank of gas as like a means of making the car go, So then that's a real loss if like you have like low, like it's intrinsically a loss if you have low gas, you know? So with the Russia, since his value system is based on the physical pleasure, the state of being hungry or not having the pleasure of food is like a real is like a real loss. It's like that's the intrinsic thing that he wants to avoid, you know? It's not just like a means to something else.
Yeah. To kind of like bring that that metaphor further, like a tzaddik would be, okay, I'm at 3/4 of a tank. I should like, I might want to fill it at some point soon, or I should keep
Yeah.
an eye on it. And a Russia would be stopping at every gas station
Mm.
to top it off.
Okay, that's a good point. So this will cause the Russia to like tend to his his food related desires more frequently and intensely. Okay, before I call on Isaiah to add to this, I just wanted to mention I think body is a better translation for this idea. The body of the Russia is lacking because well, it could be belly also. Either way, yeah, Isaiah or David.
Yeah, I had like a question.
Yeah,
Um,
I also have a question.
which is
See if it's the
why
same one.
wouldn't we call this Russia more of
Yeah.
like a lazy person? Because it
Okay,
seems
right.
like someone trying to avoid the pain by eating.
Okay, right.
Maybe that's not exactly what they're doing, but yeah.
Right. So why are we framing this person as a Russia? Okay. Why not a fool or lazy person? Right. So lazy person who is trying to avoid immediate pain, or a fool who is seeking immediate pleasure. Yeah, I think that is the one question that needs to be answered on this approach. Okay, so here's what we're gonna do. If no one has an immediate answer, I'm gonna go to Michael, and I'm sorry. The only reason, Michael, I didn't go to you is because Brooke said she had a comment. I didn't realize there was gonna be a full explanation, but but it's out there now. Okay, so Michael, what do you want to say?
So is it a fair move to say that nefesh means desire here, or would you
I
say
do
we
think
should
so,
stick-
and I think I'm pretty confident if we click on the BDB dictionary, then we'll see that sometimes it means desire. Let's see.
It was there.
It was there.
It was no. If you go, no, I'm saying if you go to the top when it lists all
the
the
top?
options.
Oh yeah, you're right. Thank you. Desire, appetite, emotion, passion. Yeah, I want to see the examples of this. So probably okay. The seed of desire I get. Seed of appetites. Oh, hunger. No, okay, no. All right, okay. Appetite in general. Okay. All right, whatever. All right, I'll just trust this. But I also feel like in my mind I've seen that before. Yeah. So nefesh means desire. Okay. So I'm curious where you're gonna take this. Yeah, go ahead.
So I was thinking that in both halves of the pasuk, they don't have enough food to actually, like, they literally don't have enough food to fill their stomach.
Okay.
And the difference is their perspectives on that. Where I'll start with the Russia. The Russia just views things through his, like how things affect him, like a very self-centered way. So to him, he says, "Okay, my stomach's lacking, so I don't care about anything else." To me, that's bad. Whereas the tzaddik says, "Fine, my stomach's lacking," but he recognizes that for the system, the rules of both the rules of nature and like the rules of economics that led to him being lacking are ultimately good. So even if he's lacking, he recognizes that he wouldn't like change a thing basically. So he's not thinking about why he's lacking.
Okay. So the side sees this lack as an expression of the lawfulness of the system. Okay, nature, economics, etc., and recognizes that the system is good even if he happens to not have food right now. Right. Okay, yeah. So this definitely is addressing why it's using Tzaddik in Russia. I assume that's what motivated your idea. Okay. Yeah. Well, let me just think about it for 1 second. Tzaddik ochel l'sov nafsho. Tzaddik eats to. So how does that how are you reading the first half to satisfy his desire?
Because his desire is for the system to be as good as it can be. So his eating he just sees as a function of the overall well-being of the system.
Okay, I got a great example for you. Okay, so during the 7 years of plenty in Egypt, they couldn't just eat whatever they wanted. They had to like have austerity measures and deprive themselves. And I'm sure there were a lot of people who were like, "What do you mean we have all this abundance?" But Yosef knew that there's going to be years of famine, and so they had to like hold back. So for the Russia, that would be like the worst evil in the world. Like, why would I deprive myself of pleasure if I could have it? But for the tzaddik, it's interesting because for the tzaddik in that case, he's going to view the food that he has during the years of plenty and the food that he has during the years of famine in the same way. Meaning, like I recognize that this is the nature of in agriculture, you're going to have ups and downs, certain years of abundance and certain years of famine, and so but my eye is on the bigger picture. Yeah. Okay, and his eating is viewed through that filter. That framework. Okay, that's an original idea. I have not thought about that one before. That's good. Okay. Anyone have anything to add to Michael's or answers for Brooke before we go to Ariel? Okay, let's go to Ariel.
Okay, so I want to say that I think this pasuk is teaching you something. Is giving you like another idea about a a tzaddik. Like it's giving you like another nuance. It's giving you another premise of a tzaddik of his mentality.
Yeah.
All right, and and I think that I think that premise is that a tzaddik recognizes what is necessary in this existence, like
right.
what's the most important thing, and that most important thing is the nefesh, and I'm defining nefesh here as the intellect.
Okay.
And so it's interesting because like the way it's funny because like my idea is gonna seem like I have like two different ideas, but like the puzzle's teaching you two different things. But it's really kind of like a two-sided coin.
Okay.
Like the nefesh, like he is in this world just to satisfy the nefesh.
Yeah.
And at the same time, he only needs enough to he only needs enough food to satisfy his body so that he can really satisfy his ultimate nefesh.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. I see why that looks like two ideas, but so I'm glad you set me up. Yeah.
Yeah, because like it could come out as two ideas, but it really is like maybe this is why like the pasuk is like framed this way, but
I was just going to suggest that. I think that would work out really well, that he deliberately used this ambiguous terminology because the tzaddik satisfies his intellect by satisfying his like physical needs, that is one in his mind.
Yeah. Now this is great for the second half also, because the second half of the pasuk is like what's the batan? The batan, it's really like you could call it the body or the stomach or whatever, but in reality it's really nothing. The stomach is only there for you to satisfy your body, but it's not the essence of life,
Right.
And the Russia's mentality, the Russia's framework is this is everything to me, and because he thinks it's and that is like that, the reason why it's rishis is because that's not in line with reality.
Okay.
That's not in line with the true objective.
Right.
And that the true objective is the nefesh.
Okay. Yeah. So that's how. Okay. I'm glad you're saying this idea. What it means to be human. Yeah. So that's how I was going to answer Brooke's question. So let me state it the way I'm saying it. I don't think I'm saying anything different than you, but I just want to express it in my way. Is that and I'm not going to read through this as much as I'm. No, of course I'm tempted to. Okay, hold on. I'm not going to read through the whole chapter. I know I always say that, but the final chapter of the More Nevuchim, where the Rambam defines Chesed, Mishpat, and Tzedakah. Oh, I don't think this is my. Or sorry, is it the second to last chapter? Second to last chapter. Oh, this is not my. All right, I'll just read this translation. The word tzedakah is derived from tzedek, which means righteousness or uprightness. The meaning of uprightness is to bring every lawfully governed being in line with its lawful principle, and to give every existing thing that which is proper for its existence. Okay, so so giving something what it deserves, either legally or existentially. Okay. And so so for a human being, the essence of the human being is the rational faculty. And so, and the very first, you could either use the muscle of like the put on your own seatbelt, or your own what is the thing on the airplanes, your own oxygen mask first. You have to if you're gonna be a tzaddik, you have to be a tzaddik to yourself first, right? Like you can't do acts of tzedek to other people unless you're taking care of your own needs. And if you're missing that whole understanding of what you are and what your essence is, you can't be a tzaddik. So this really is in the realm of tzaddik in Russia, because the tzaddik has to live his life based on the fact that I have a mind and I need to like take care of it in order to be able to do all the other tzaddik that Mishleic talks about. And the Russia is totally missing that, and his missing that is not just like an innocent mistake. It's a mistake that like removes him from the framework of righteousness. So first, before I call on Noah, Ariel, is that in line with what you're saying? Different?
Yeah, I think that, yeah.
All right, that's good. Okay, yeah, Noah.
Okay. I'm gonna go out on a little limb.
Sure.
Because I feel like it. I might read this differently at other times, but I'm kind of reading it as an observation, wherein, as a result of someone's righteousness, his material needs are satisfied.
Okay.
But as a result of wickedness, the void stays empty. Just everything completely.
Okay. So that actually is what the Meiri says, I believe. Actually, you know what I'm gonna do? I want to actually record this as a question. We did miss this question, which is the phenomenon, or I guess are the phenomena described in the pasuk like decisions, or I hate that there's no really good word in English for symptom, but for positive stuff, right? Like there's no like or neutral term. I feel like symptom is just a really handy word, so I'm just gonna say symptom. Say again. I didn't get it. Outcome. Outcome is not really the same thing as a symptom, right? Like, yeah, I like you wouldn't describe like that rash is like it's like a symptom of an allergy. It's not an outcome of an allergy. I mean, you could say it's outcome, but that's not what we really mean. Anyway, or symptoms of
indicator.
What was that?
Like an indicator?
Yeah, like indicator. Yeah, indicator is a nice neutral one, but it doesn't quite have the indicators is okay. Yeah, I guess indicator. I don't know. It's not quite as fruits. Yeah, I don't know. Okay, anyway, so Noah is suggesting that this pasuk is describing the outcomes of or the is describing
fruits. We're talking about food.
Okay,
Just
fine.
Go with fruits.
Okay, the fruits of being a tzaddik and Russia. Okay, so you said it really well for tzaddik. We said the tzaddik will do what?
As a consequence of his righteousness, his material needs will be satisfied.
Okay, right.
Even if it doesn't look like, that's, he's not waking up and grinding every day.
Right. Okay, yeah, even if it doesn't look like it. Whereas the Russia will be lacking. Okay, so because I don't fully remember this, I feel like also Rabbeinu Yonah might say that. So let's look at Rabbeinu Yonah and the Meiri. And well, no one's hands are raised with other interpretations now anyway. So this, oh yeah, Michael.
Well, I had a question on this idea.
Yeah, sure.
Is this like hashgacha, or is this just like what a tzaddik does?
Good question. Noah, do you have Noah, did you have an answer to that? is this describing just the natural results of who the tzaddik is, or is it saying that like there's a special like hashgacha that God has on a tzaddik?
I don't know, but honestly, I would think that it is naturalistic,
I also think so. Yeah.
especially given other pasukim that we've learned in Mishlei over the past few months.
Yeah, I think so also. Okay, so the we're in luck. Sorry, we're not in. Okay, we're out of luck for Rabbeinu Yonah. There is no Rabbeinu Yonah on this pasuk. It's just like it seems like it's just missing. But Rabbeinu Yonah does have explained this in Pirkei Avos. Okay, so in Pirkei Avos he says, you know what I'm gonna do? Hold on a second. Yeah, just for the sake. I'm just not in the mood to type. Here I'll do Rabbeinu Yonah. Hold on. We'll do the compromise that I've been relying on more and more often lately, which is I am going to use ChatGPT to translate this for the screen, but I'm just going to translate it verbally because I don't trust ChatGPT for everything. So hold on just 1 second here. Let me just get ChatGPT. Please translate this. Okay, so and I think this is also going to be similar to what Brooke said. Okay, all right, I'm going to go ahead and read this and translate it myself, but you can look on the screen if you want. Hold on, let me just make this a little bit. We don't care about the margins here. Make it smaller. Okay, so he says like this. So this is on Pirkei Avos where it says all your actions should be for the sake of heaven. Even optional matters, like eating and drinking. A person should only eat in order to remove the hunger from his body. Okay, I don't know if this still holds up to. I think we hold you need proper nutrition. But anyway, it says that's gonna protect you from distress and cause health for your body. He shouldn't eat whatever is sweet to his palate. Because your palate always wants you to eat until you fill your belly. As much as you can. This is where he deviates here. He says from what we've said, and this is going to give you all sorts of diseases. That's not a typo. That's a scano. Let's see if ChatGPT got it right. Hold on. Because so I think itztomcha is stomach. Okay, because the stomach in a yachol litkon can only grind. It could only like digest what it can hold. But the Resha'im who fill themselves and eat until they no longer want to eat. Hold on. This scanned poorly. I had to scan this from my volume here. So even ChatGPT is going to get it wrong. So they make their bellies deficient and they destroy it. So again, I think body is a better translation for betin here. And this lack in the body, that refers to harm. But the tzaddik who eats to satisfy his soul and to remove hunger alone, he maintains his body because he loves his soul to do good and upright in the eyes of Hashem. So this is not exactly what anyone said, but it is very much in line with this, and I think it does. It's consistent with what Noah is saying, that the tzaddik is naturally gonna eat in a way where he's gonna be caring for his body and avoiding many diseases. Okay, Meiri though takes it one step further. Okay, and I'm gonna go ahead and do this translation thing as well. Okay, we did this pasuk a long time ago. Our third Mishlei shiur. First of all, he says like this on our pasuk: "Kol ma shetzarich b'bir zeh pasuk hein leniga hein lenister bi'arnu lamala b'pasuk lo yarif Hashem nefesh tzaddik." So he says everything that you need on this pasuk for the external or the internal meaning, I I explained on Mishlei 10.3. So Mishlei 10.3 is very difficult to translate. Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and just put this into ChatGPT, but I don't think ChatGPT is going to be able to translate this either accurately because I think we had like 7 translations of this when we did it. So the pasuk is Lo Yariv Hashem Nefesh Tzadik V'Havus Roshaim Yehadof. Okay. All right, we'll see how the Meiri takes it. Yeah, hold on a second. You know what? I'm gonna skip this. I'm gonna go right to the one that I know is what Noah was saying. Okay. V'yesh lefarish. Yeah, okay. And this one I am gonna use this for. Hold on. Sorry about this here. Okay. So he says like this. So he quotes our pasuk and he says, I actually am going to rely on ChatGPT here because he uses a bunch of I don't know if it's Aristotelian or Galenic medicine. Hold on. So he says, okay, so he says like this. And it can be interpreted that the verses matter into itself, hinting at what is said elsewhere. Quotes our pasuk. So he says it is the material of man, meaning man's physicality, cannot exist without food and other bodily pleasures. I would say pleasures that are animalistic in nature. Because the matter of man's body is the same as other animals, because of its composition. That man is made up of what other animals are made of. But man's material is more refined. Okay, they had this idea of like different types of matter are more refined or more coarse. I don't know if there's any corollary to that in modern medicine. And because of the refinement of man's and subtlety of man's matter, it is able to receive what separates him from them. Okay, I'll explain in a second. And just as there is a superiority of man's matter over the matter of their animals because of its refinedness, so too, the matter of a tzaddik is more refined than the matter of the rasha due to its refinement. Even though they're the same species. That's why the rasha is drawn after his nature and the grossness of his physicality. Okay, hold on just a second. Next paragraph. Therefore, the tzaddik, af im yimale beso kesef v'zahav lo yivakesh hamosar. This is not as I was remembering it. Okay, we've gone in too far. Yeah, we've gone too far anyway. We'll see. We'll see if it does end up being what I remember. But I thought this was what Noah was saying, but it's not sounding like it so far. Okay, hold on. Okay, hold on. Sorry about this. I just gotta get this on the screen with the right fonts and everything. It's gonna turn out bad anyway. Yep. Okay. Okay, so then he says, therefore the tzaddik, af imimale beso kesef v'zahav, even if he fills his house with silver and gold, lo yivakesh hamosar, he will not crave excess. V'yaspik lo b'mazon uv'shar ha'naos ha'amadas gufo v'kiyum naos lo. And just having enough nutrition and other pleasures to sustain his body, that'll be good for him. V'hu mechavin lezev v'sam v'sham or chosav and he will constantly like focus on towards and assess his ways to determine what his nature needs. In other words, he's going to be constantly looking to see physiologically and psychologically what do I need and what is excess. Oh, this is what reminded me of what Noah was saying. And therefore, he will always be satiated. And omed savala, meaning that as a natural state. Amram Zal, as Chazal say, Marivo Savea. That I think this is talking about the sex, the sexual organ, that if you starve it, you're satisfying it, meaning that if you don't indulge in sexual stuff, then you won't have as great of a desire and you'll be able to be sustained. You'll be able to feel like you have enough even when you're not indulging it. This is where I got my whole theory from. And this matter is ascribed to Hashem. All things that come from nature trace back to God. V'hu ki'ilu amar is as if it is saying Shahat Tzadik lo ya'amod ra'iv, that the tzaddik will not stand starving. V'harasha behefek, or he will not be starving, and the rasha the opposite. V'lo yispa la'olam, and he will never be satisfied. K'amar ubetim resha'im taksar, the belly of the wicked is lacking. That's where he quotes our pasuk. K'lamar he kavanaso bebitno la'olam shu chaser. His intention in his belly is that it will always be lacking. V'lo yachazikenu b'saveh b'sava la'olam. He will never treat it as though it is satiated. Even if he eats 1,000 times. That's funny. Can't compare someone who eats 100 times to someone who eats 101 times. A person should accustom himself in this trait to the point where he never like fully satiates himself. As it says, if you satiate yourself, then you're going to starve it. Meaning if you fully fulfill any desire, then you're going to end up like feeling in this state of want. I had a great example of this last night, which I'll give in a second. Okay, then he goes back to our pasuk. Yeah, I had an example of this last night. Last night was a wedding that was the fanciest wedding I've ever been to, and there were so many food stations, and the food was so good, and so much of it was keto friendly that I think it's usually my procedure at a wedding is I go and I sample all of the foods that like I can have keto wise. But this time I was like, I can't even try all of them. It's just too much. And I felt, there's a certain, when you're at a really good shmorg, there is a certain compulsion, at least from my experience, to like try everything. Somehow, it was the first time I've ever been at a shmorg that was so good, but making the decision of I'm not going to try everything somehow like made me feel satiated in the sense that like I just didn't like feel like I was going around like wanting to try everything. So it was just it was bizarre that came about at the best wedding food I've ever had. Like that it forced me into a position where like where I had to be satisfied, and then I ended up being naturally satisfied. But yeah, so just to summarize this, he has this whole theory about the physiology. It does sound like he's saying that the Russia's eating habits, which are interrelated with his coarseness, meaning the fact that he's like this physical, addicted to the physical type person, that is gonna keep him in this like vicious cycle of like wanting excess, and then that's gonna feed his physiological roots of his Russia tendencies, like being addicted to pleasure, and then that's going to make him dissatisfied. That's going to make him want to eat more, et cetera, et cetera. But he's just going to be in a state of want and bodily, non-ideal state. The tzaddik, though, who's not looking for excess and who could be happy with just getting what he needs, is not going to crave excess, and therefore he's going to be satisfied. And that's going to be a natural thing. And the reason why I went here right now was because this is where we got this theory from that Mishlei will ascribe natural things to Hashem because Hashem is the cause of nature, which the Rambam talks about at length in the Morning Nevuchim. And so this, I think, does work as a natural result. But again, it's rightly ascribed to Hashem. I mean, our pasuk doesn't do it, but it's rightly ascribed to Hashem because Hashem set man up this way. He set us up so that if you're eating for your bodily health and moderating your desires to not go crazy, so then like you will be able to be satisfied and your body will be as healthy as it can be. And if you go to excess, you're going to cause yourself diseases and feeling of lack. So like that is Hashem's will. This is my whole like getting on a soapbox of saying how I know it's very nice that everyone distinguishes between hashgacha pratis and hashgacha klalis about individual providence and like nature, but we got to remember that in Tanakh no one did that. And that's the mentality that Tehillim is trying to get us to, where we see God in everything. And it's not saying that everything is a miracle, and it's not saying that everything is nature. It's saying that everything is from God. And so like stop caring about like that distinction. We have to care about it in order to understand, but like ultimately we shouldn't make that distinction. Yeah, Michael.
I know this is a pretty basic point, so if you don't want to go over it now, that's fine. But why are we reluctant to actually say that stuff is like hashgacha pratis and Mishlei? Because like I think this pasuk could be very easily explained if you just say it's hashgacha.
Yeah, I mean, and you could say it's hashgacha. The only reason why, okay, the reason why I'm reluctant to say it, I can't speak for all the we's here, but is that first of all, there's a premise I have from the Rishonim, all the Rishonim that I've read who've written about hashgacha pratis, which is that the more hashgacha pratis is in proportion to your closeness to God. So like the level where everything in your life is taken care of through hashgacha pratis is a very high level. And I think because of my assumption that Mishlei is for everyone, and the tzaddik in Mishlei is on a high level, but he's not like, you don't have to be like an Avram Avinu to get the Mishleic benefits of being a tzaddik. I naturally incline in Mishlei towards assuming that it's in hashgacha klalis. That's one reason. Second reason is because I find that because Mishlei is training you how to make decisions, if you posit hashgacha pratis cause and effect mechanisms for the benefits that Mishleic points out, it ends up, people just end up giving interpretations where it's like, if you do X, Y, Z, then God will take care of you. And you just don't get any insight into like making decisions. Whereas I find that if you assume that this is how you actually, doing this decision actually results in this benefit, it trains you Mishleically, in Mishleic decision making. So I favor those interpretations. And a third reason is because I think my standard prejudice, like the Rambam says, of like, the masses want everything to be a miracle and they recoil from explaining something naturally, but we strive to explain everything naturalistically unless unless we are forced to say it's a miracle. And the reason why we do that is because God created an amazing world, and I think that the more miracles you posit, the more you are like detracting from the from God's greatness, So like I think my relationship with God is such, and my view of God is that like the more miracles you posit, then you're just like it's almost like a degradation of the fact that God, like what we just said here, that if you live as a tzaddik in terms of your eating decisions, then God created a world in which you will be able to get by on less food, you won't have sicknesses, and like you'll be happy. That's an amazing thing, that God could have set up a world in which if you live ethically, you must suffer in this world, and we're saying in Mishlei is like, no, if you live, make good Mishleic decisions, you're also going to enjoy the world more. And that's an amazing creator. Yeah. Noah quoted something in the chat, which I will read. I don't know what it is yet. We have a duty to perform, to cultivate the human soul, to defend mystery against miracle, to adore the incomprehensible, and to reject the absurd, to admit nothing that is there something blocking here? Nothing that is inexplicable, expecting what is necessary, to purify faith and obliterate superstition from the face of religion, and to remove the vermin from the garden of God. I know I've seen that quotation before. Who is that?
Victor Hugo, Les Miserables.
Ah, okay. I've encountered that before. It's not in my collection. I'll have to add that. Let me just copy and paste this into the document. Yeah. Okay. So we have done Rabbeinu Yonah and the Meiri. Again, I think there's a lot of overlap between that and what Brooke said, and what Ariel said. But each of them pointed to their own thing. Let's just do Metzudas David, and then I want to look at the Malbim because I haven't looked at the Malbim yet on this. Because I feel like Mom might have something juicy. Okay, so the Metzudas David, I bet he's going to say something similar, but we'll find out. Says, Eino chafetz b'ma'adanim. He doesn't desire delicacies. The rekev, that's got to be rock. I don't think this is rekev, which means rot. Let me just see this. Hold on. Yeah, Barak. Okay, hold on just a second. I gotta model being a good citizen. As I do. Gotta go to Al HaTorah and send them a correction. Okay. See, it's that quick. You too could be a good citizen and help people learn. All right. Okay, so he doesn't desire delicacies. V'rak davar hamasbia as not hanefesh. Only that which satiates which satiates the soul. Aval harashaim, but the wicked, yisangu ba'achilas ma'adanim, take pleasure, or I guess I'm gonna say pamper themselves, yisangu themselves in eating delicacies, sweet delicacies, matukim va'arevim, sweet and delectable delicacies. Vitamid bitno chasera, and his belly is always lacking. Ki ravcha lebesima shchicha. I think that means because there's always room for dessert. I think that's in Psachim. V'yuchol od malosa, and he can always fill it. So that's interesting, right? So that is an idea about desire, not about nutrition, right? So this is something that's a slightly different thing, right? Right. I mean, it's not unrelated to what we said, but it is saying that if you are eating, he didn't take a stance on what the soul means, okay? So just plug in whatever idea you want. But if you want to eat pleasure, you will always find the ability to eat dessert. Okay, that's the lesson from here, right? Is that there's with actual, if you're talking about an objective need, so there is an objectivity of like, do I need this or not? But if it's just I want pleasure, you'll always be able to find space for pleasure, So so the moral of the story is like don't. So the main idea is, since someone who is prioritizing pleasure will always be able to partake of more pleasure, it is a bad idea to open yourself up to an infinite desire like this. Okay. Yeah. All right, that's good. I was gonna say something there. Forgot what it was. Okay, Michael. Oh, did you freeze? Did I freeze? Oh, Ariel's still moving.
No, he froze.
Okay, he froze. Okay, fine. All right, so hopefully he'll come back. Okay, let's look at the Malvin. There's a Rav Hirsch. I forgot I had a Rav Hirsch here. I haven't read it yet. I just copied and pasted, or I scanned it. Let's see what he says.
I think it's
Oh, there we go. Michael, you're back now. You were frozen, so we didn't hear anything you said. But I don't know if you're back.
I don't know if he hears us now.
Okay, fine. All right, I'll just type this in. I'll just type this in the chat. Michael, you were frozen. We heard nothing. Okay. I don't know if he's gonna get that either. All right, let's just read. I'll put his hand down. Oh, there he's back. Yeah, Michael, you're back. We didn't hear anything you said.
It's fine.
Okay.
It's okay. You can move on.
Okay, so Rav Hirsch said the person who observes divine law, I was gonna say will put down his rigor mortis hand, but I was frozen there. Okay, the person who observes divine law allows himself the enjoyment of food and the satisfaction of other needs only inasmuch as this is necessary for the maintenance of his body as the receptacle of his soul on earth and for the fulfillment of his obligations in this connection. Accordingly, even when attending to his physical needs, the righteous man remains within the sphere of the spiritual. To a person without any law, on the other hand, sensual satisfaction is purely a demand of his body. And while animals find their proper limit in the fulfillment of their natural needs and restrain themselves at that, a sensual person knows neither limit nor satiety in the gratification of his senses. So that's very much like what we've said. We've noted that the man of integrity abhors social injustice and violence. He has the same aversion towards immorality and backs away from the very thought of immoral behavior. Conversely, the man outside the divine law abhors not only social justice, he loathes moral dignity too, to such an extent that even the thought of controlling one's own desires and leading a life of unfailing moral conduct is repugnant to him. So that's an interesting question. I don't know if that's true across the board, but it's definitely true in certain ways that basically, if you are anti-morality, then that could lead you to have a resentment for anything that even restrains your own desires. Again, I don't think it's necessarily the case, because you got a lot of people who are Resha'im in terms of social justice, but can exercise self-control. Yeah. So all right. So as usual, Rav Hirsch is very articulate saying the ideas, but he says what we said. Okay, let's do the Malbim and then we'll call it a night. Malbim says, I'm gonna make a point right now before I do the Malbim, because otherwise I'm gonna forget it. You know, I'll tell you one thing, and if you ever learn this pasuk with if you ever learn this pasuk with someone who doesn't know Mishlei, what do you think they will say that the pasuk is about? I know that's a very broad question, but see if you can get what I'm getting at.
Eating food.
More specifically, what do you think they'll mean when they say tzaddik eats to satisfy his soul?
Oh, I don't know. Gluttony, maybe, I don't know.
I've done this before. I've used this. I used to use this early on in my Mishleic curriculum. So they'll say it's about eating kosher and non-kosher. Okay, right? Because if you're tzaddik, you keep halacha, and if you're a Rasha, you don't. So I haven't done a survey of all the meforshim, but you see from here, so far no one's mentioned kashrus. And again, this is just now. Is this unrelated to kashrus? Of course not. What we've been saying is like the basis of kashrus. But if you just like, I've had so many high school students who don't know Mishlei yet, and they see this and they just say, yeah, it's talking about eating kosher, and then that's it. Like it just. But if you learn the pasuk and the sefer the way we're learning it, you see all these reasons for kashrus of like the self-control and the to training you that eating is not just about pleasure and like keeping you away from excess, etc. Yeah, Ariel?
Yeah, I was just gonna ask, according to the mefarish who said, look at pasuk perek pasuk gimel, like,
Yeah.
how is he learning this pasuk? Well, I guess, okay, let me rephrase the question.
Yeah.
What's the difference between the two pasukim then?
Right. Yeah, that's a good question. I'd really have to explain I have to look into how he learns that pasuk. The whole commentary was very long. And I have to see if he dropped other clues there. It's a legitimate question. I just don't think I have time to look into that right now.
Okay.
Yeah, and the very fact that on our pasuk he says, I explained everything I need to there. Like, Miri doesn't always do that. Sometimes he will say an idea even if it's similar. So I don't know. Okay, Mabim. Tzaddik ochel somanavsho. Hatzadik lo yochal l'malei bidna. Okay, starts off the same way. The tzaddik doesn't eat to fill his belly. Rak l'sova nafsho k'dei hasipuk lo mosros. K'dei hasipuk lo mosros. Yeah, to fill his belly. Only to sate his soul, k'dei hasipuk, to the point where it has enough, lo mosros, not excesses. Gam yirmos she'ochel l'sova nafsho haruchanias. This also alludes to the fact that he eats to satisfy his spiritual soul, k'pi hatzarech rak lahachios nafsho, in accordance with the needs of giving his soul life. Aval Resha'im, but the wicked, she'ochlim l'malei bitnam, who eat to fill their bellies, bitnam tamid texar tamid. Their bellies are always lacking. Kikol sheyesh lo hu misavi yoser ve'ein katz l'tavaso. Because anyone who has something will always lust for more, and there is no end to his desire. This is sounding like the Mitzvah David. V'gam zeh teshuva al hanizkal el shalachein Rabbi Chanina ben Dosa hayalo. Okay, this is actually a good proof for on Noah's idea interpreted naturalistically. This is also an answer to that which was mentioned above. I don't know where he quoted this. Shalachein, that therefore Rabbi Chanina ben Dosa really had enough to eat with just a kav of carobs each week. V'lo ratza yoser, and he didn't want more. Ki lo ratza rak l'sova nafsho v'tanuge ha'olam hazeh hayu ka'ayin be'enav, because he only wanted to satiate his soul. This is like what Brooke said. And the enjoyments of this world were like nothing in his eyes. Okay, and I can't help but give the Rambam's example here, where he says, like, the king, when he was 5 years old, enjoyed playing ball in the street with his friends. But when he's king and you ask him, would you want to go give up your kingship and play ball with your friends? He'd be like, no, that's ridiculous. And if you said, well, I thought you enjoyed it. Yeah, I enjoyed it back then, but like there's higher pleasures. Kal v'chomer, if you're involved in the world of Chachma and and the the non-physical, the pleasures of the soul, you're just not even gonna be tempted by this other stuff. Ikra ha'oneg hanafshi bolam haba, because the main enjoyment is the spiritual enjoyment in olam haba. Okay, which I know Ram says you can't experience that here. Okay, fine. All right, so this is unlike other of our Mishlei ideas. There's so much overlap here that I feel like I don't want to go through and just summarize what everyone said. So the only real different idea was Michael's idea, but the idea that we all had, and by all I mean like all the meforshim also, is basically the tzaddik is going to make eating decisions based on what is good for his body in terms of its physiological needs, and not giving it excess. And he views his body as just a means to being able to care for his mind, to use his mind. And that's also where he gets his satisfaction. So it'll turn out that the tzaddik will avoid many health problems, avoid feeding infinite desires, and will be able to live a life of mind and also, consume less. Whereas the Rasha, whose life revolves around the physical, and on satisfying more and more desire, is going to always feel like he's lacking. The state of hunger itself is going to feel like an evil. He's going to cause himself health problems. And the reason why it's a Rasha is because he's denying, he's not relating to one of God's creatures the way that it was designed. Namely, he's not treating himself as a human, he's treating himself as an animal, and so he has to feed himself like a human, not like an animal. So if you fed a hamster fish food, that's injustice. If you feed a human as if it was an animal, that's also injustice. And it doesn't matter that you're doing it to yourself. And this shows that Mishlei's idea of tzaddik and Rasha applies to how you treat yourself as well, because you're one of God's creatures. And then the other idea that we had was the Metzudas David, and the again, in line with also Rav Hirsch and the Malbim, of is about desire, that there's always room for dessert. So don't open yourself up to something where there's infinite ability to get more, or always opportunity to get more. Focus on having needs that can be met, and then you'll be happier in general. Okay, that was a nice pasuk. See, I if you asked me before we gave shiur, do you remember the idea of this? I would say yeah, and I'd spit out something like this. But going through it so thoroughly, really you see all like the nuances and the contours of the idea and the examples, and it's worth a review. So it's good. Okay, good year of Mishlei. It's weird because we're not stopping this year, so I don't feel like this is really the end. It's just yeah, Benji.
Can I add also to Michael's idea, maybe for the Rasha, that
Sure.
the reason he sees it as evil is because he views the whole system as not that he's part of the system and then it works in a certain way, but it's all meant to help him. So when
right, that's
so
good.
far as he's not satisfied, then he's like use it as even more. It's even worse.
Okay, good. That everything exists for me. And so he will view the lack of food as an injustice against him, and that feeling of victimization will amplify his suffering. And then Noah says, that makes me feel bad for the Rasha. I would like to gift him a secure attachment style. Yeah, and that really is the Mishleic attitude towards the Rasha that a Chacham has, I think. Actually, I don't know. The way I've thought of it is the Chacham feels sorry for the Rasha, because the Rasha is just miserable. The tzaddik hates the Rasha as Oave Hashem Sinu Ra, or Yiras Hashem Sinos. I think there's something. Let me make sure I'm not making up a Mishlei pasuk. Hold on. It's in chapter 8. I just did this with Isaiah on the week before Shavuos. Yiras Hashem Sinos Ra. Yeah. So no, that's Yiras Hashem. That's not. Okay, whatever. So in Tehillim, Ove Hashem Sinu Ra, that the tzaddik hates the Rasha, not personally though. He hates the Rasha because the tzaddik is attached to the system, and Resha'im are very bad for the system. The tzaddik wants to help the Rasha, but hates the rishus that he does. But yes, feel sorry for the Rasha as well. Okay, this is very good, and Bli Neder will continue next week with me in a different time zone. And what we're gonna do here, by the way, I did decide, Ariel, that we are going to go to chapter 16 for our Monday night shiur. It's not 15, 16, because I want to keep 15 on the continuity for next year of the morning Mishlei shiur, And then I was looking through 17. I told you that many of the psukim that I've taught in my curriculum are from 17. So this pasuk is from my curriculum. This pasuk is from my curriculum. This pasuk is from my curriculum. Oops, sorry, hold on. And when I say curriculum, I don't mean like every year I teach these. Yeah. But just, there's so many of these things that, yeah, this one, so many of these psukim are like fundamental. This one, and like I don't know what I want to do. Oh, this one, oh no, yeah. So like I just remember all the ideas from these psukim because I've taught them so many times. This one, yeah.
So
So
that's why you don't want to do it.
that's why, yeah, I don't. That's why I'm pushing off the decision about when I want to do it. But when I do it,
Alright.
I think I might just like I don't know if I want to go through all these again if I do them every time I teach.
No,
myself.
I hear honestly, like I'd rather do something that also you don't have such a huge stake in. Also,
Yeah.
what
Yeah.
what I mean by
But
that
I
is
mean,
like
there are. I think what will end up happening is, yeah, I've done this one also. Yeah, I think all these other ones, we'll just do the ones that I haven't, that I don't usually teach, and then the other ones I could like do on my own or something like that, like just.
I mean,
record them.
look, if you have it a part of your curriculum and they're like the fundamentals, it
That
might
is
be
true. That is an
worthwhile
argument for
to-
doing it. Yeah,
to
that is
also
true.
do it sometime.
Yeah.
Doesn't
So,
have
but
to
for
be
now,
tomorrow, but it could just
for
be.
now, we're just gonna push off the decision. So, the plan is for Monday night shiur, we're starting chapter 16 next week, and then for morning Mishlei in the fall in September, then we'll bleed netter start 15. Okay. Have a good night, good week. Talk to you later.
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming.
Thanks.
Bye.